And we had certain friends that hung at the house, people who were very famous, but they were vaudevillians. There was one named Edward Pardo. He was a constant friend of my father, and a good friend of the Durants and of the people who ran the Macombo Club on the Strip. And he was very famous for doing a song and dance during which time his pants would fall down, for which he got paid $2,000 a week back in the 20s. And unfortunately, he invested all his money in Baltimore, in the chic part of Baltimore, which became the slums of Baltimore as time passed. So he wasn't all that well off, but he was well enough off that he could live pretty well. I remember he was kind of a man about town with the ladies, and he also was a would-be playwright. He was a constant advisor to me, and I never liked him because he was so formal and theatrical and seemed so imposing, as I suppose adults do to children. And then my father had another friend who was the lady who held the torch in the Columbia Pictures films, named Claudia Dell. She was actually the niece of Claudia Coleman, who was a very famous vaudevillian. My father was in vaudeville, so he had a number of vaudevillian partners who we would visit. Joe Rollo was one of them. I don't know what they did together, but people did vaudeville acts. It's how they survived. I didn't realize people don't realize how much of it was going on and what a strange phenomenon it was to live in Hollywood with what was going on. But I ran into Amos and Andy at the farmer's market because they were working next door at the CBS. I ran into, I swear, that famous guy from the Chaplin films, and I thought he was serving, may not have been him, it just may have been a lookalike, was serving, I don't know, vegetables, butcher, he was the butcher or something, down at the corner. The bad guy, the big fat guy, I swear he was working down there at the corner. And in some cases it was, in some cases it wasn't. It was just the nature of movies and the nature of Hollywood. Because as time passed, with time, I ran into Eisenstein's assistant director. His second assistant, George Roney, was running a stamp shop on the corner across from the Hollywood Hill Hotel, which at that time was next to the Hollywood Theater. I had a friend named Timmy Hartman. Timmy Hartman was Don Hartman's son. Don Hartman was the president of Paramount for a while. And Timmy Hartman was in drama school with me at Beverly High. And Timmy, when he found out I started writing Riders to the Sea for David Giler and a couple of people who were also in class with me. David became the producer of some remake of The Maltese Falcon and Myra Breckenridge. And I don't know what else he produced, nothing very important, I don't think. But David and I were close friends when we were in school because of that drama school. Remember I said I went to in Hollywood High? He was there and he was fucking this beautiful blonde little thing that was believable. It was a nymphomaniac or something. And it was a sad but beautiful story. And I was only 16, or 15 and a half or something. And I thought David was fantastic that he was doing that. I was looking to do that myself. I didn't realize I might have been able to do that right there and there, but, youth is wasted on the young. But David and I became really good friends. I looked up to him. I used to stay over at his house, and his father knew my parents because he worked. Somehow those Tarzan movies dovetailed into my parents' life. He knew my mother even, I think. Great guy, his father, and his mother, great people, a lot like my parents, but more successful. Because my father had lost his money and was floundering around doing some of the things you see in Brandy in the Wilderness, trying to make a living and not doing too well. Anyway, so what did I do? So Timmy turned me on to Eisenstein, and then he told me that they showed Eisenstein's films over at the Coronet. Introduced me to Raymond Rohauer's collection. which was unbelievable.
What was it like? I mean,
What was it like? Don't you know what was in there?
I know what it is.
Kenneth Anger's films were in there. I mean, there was. That's something else too. I was interested in sex when I was 15 or 14, and I started wandering on Santa Monica Boulevard, and I discovered these really sexy movies. I want to tell you what they were. They were filled with sex. Summer with Monica, The Virgin Spring, Nights of Cabiria, Orfeo, filled with sex. Beautifully done, too. Very different than the prurient, dirty stuff that you thought you were going to get into. You came away very spiritualized from those things. And sometimes they would show Flora Mock's films, maybe Maya Daren's films, strange little shorts that had all these strange films that were not like anything I had ever seen in the cinema. I got involved in a complex situation. I came back from New York on one of my trips, and I parked my car behind the cinema theater and was walking around the corner, and I saw Kenneth, and he had a giant dagger in his briefcase. It was sticking out or sticking through it out the bottom. I don't know. I saw the blade or the handle, but I saw, holy shit, and Kenneth was crazed. And I said, Kenneth, what's going on? I took him over to a coffee shop and we sat. And he's telling me what was happening, that there's a copy of his film that Curtis had or something. And I forget what it was, but I volunteered to step into the middle, jerk that I was, and try to help. Okay, solve it for Kenneth. So I went to John, and John used me in a situation to placate Kenneth and to stand as witness or trustee. And I found myself being betrayed, I felt, by the trust I gave to Kenneth in this situation with the bus locker and the film being transferred and all this crappy intrigue. And I ended up one night in the film booth protecting the film. Curtis's guys came in tuxedos, but they were thugs. Kenneth's guys came from motorcycles and they had chains. But I can't tell you that they were less or more thugs than Curtis's guys. They just were dressed up on Curtis's side. Cameron was downstairs. Kenneth was doing tarot cards and cursing and setting up curses on the table upstairs in the projection room and throwing beer bottles down into the audience down below, filled with beer. God knows, one had hit anybody, he would have killed somebody. And screaming and yelling. And Curtis Harrington's Wormwood Star was showing on the screen, and then I guess Inauguration of the Pleasure Dome, whatever. Anyway, when the film was over, there was a rough and tumble fight on the staircase between the thugs and the motorcyclists and Kenneth. And it was like out of a dream, I've only been in one other fight like that, and that was in Ireland. I used to see it in a bar. I got trapped one night, and it was a scene beyond the imagination of John Ford, and it was for real, with no breakaway glass or breakaway chairs, and that was a real battle.